guys, I wanted to make one final video about your newest project, the independent reading project. Hopefully you watched the how-to video. If you didn't and you are seeing this for the first time or hearing about this for the first time, if you go into the Google Classroom, there is an assignment that I just put in there for self-made test that is due next Friday. So again, you really are going to have to budget your time and work hard to get this done so that you don't lose time management points, because it's due by 11:59 p.m. on March 24th, which is not this Friday, but it's next Friday. So I just wanted to take some time to go over the rubric. I know that the rubric looks like it's a lot of text, but if you notice, a lot of it is exactly the same words, just copied and pasted into the different parts of the test that you'll be creating. So for instance, part 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all worth 24 points. That's the heart of your assignment. So that's 80 points. And then there are another 10 points each for parts 5 and 6. And we'll go over each of those a little bit in terms of what the requirement is for the rubric. I have on this sheet as well, I put a link to the how-to video, so you can click on that link and it'll bring you to the how-to video if you're not sure what I'm talking about. Please make sure that you take the time to divide the pages of your text into 3 sections, beginning, middle, end. The easiest way to do that is to look at how many number of pages there are in your book. So let's say there are 250 pages in your book. We're going to divide that into 3 sections. And so you're going to take about 84 pages at a time. So part 1 would be pages 81 to 84 if it starts with number 1, for instance, et cetera, et cetera. So you do 3 chunks of 84 pages, because one of my main goals is to see that you have allowed your prompts to span the entire book that you read. I don't want most of the prompts to come from one section of the book, and it needs to go chronological. And I said all that in the how-to video. That's just a repeat. So you're going to fill out your Google form, which means you're going to be the teacher. You're going to actually create the Google form as a quiz. If you have any problems doing that, please post them to the classroom. We're not going to spend time going over the directions. I've written everything down, so it's your responsibility to read the directions. If there's any confusion, here's where you would write a question. What do you mean by whatever? Whatever you're confused about, so I can answer everyone's questions in one place. And that way, if you forget what I answered, you can always go back and look at the response. So I think it will ultimately save time. And also, the goal is to put some of this responsibility on you. A lot of times during class, I find I go over the instructions, I write them on the board, you have them on the paper, but either you're not listening and then you're not willing to go back and reread the directions. And that is definitely a skill I wanted to send you to 10th grade with. Reading the directions, being independent, and advocating for yourself when you're confused by developing a question and looking at the response. So I want questions about this assignment to be posted into the Google Classroom. You can also send them through Remind. We could start a Remind thread, I think, with questions about the project, and I'll be happy to answer them, because keep in mind, if you have a question, chances are other people have the same question. Okay, so again, the first 4 parts of the test that you're creating are worth 20 points each for 80 points. You are basically being assessed on 2 skills, writing skills and content skills. So reading comprehension skills, and your ability to develop content based on that reading comprehension. So for your writing skills, I put 5 boxes. Your goal is for me not to put an X. When I print this out and I'm looking at your part 1, I'm looking at the questions that you developed for part 1. You don't want me to put an X here, because that means your prompts are not clear and they're reading awkwardly. You don't want me to put an X here, because that means you have a problem with capitalization. Again, so if I put X's, that means you're losing 2 points. I want to call to your attention the highlighted parts. So if you don't include the page number, which I understand is going to be part of this process that slows it down a little bit, I'm trying to really force you to go back into the text to think about the prompt that you're asking, to show me that you can go back and find the right answer. If you choose not to include the page numbers for any of your, you know, 50 questions, then you're going to lose all of the points. And so each section is worth 246. So let's say you have page numbers for numbers 1 through 25, but then you stop. You're still going to lose all 6 points for putting the page numbers for each of those sections. So you don't say, oh, I'm just going to skip this one, I won't lose any points. The first time you skip putting page numbers, you will lose all of those points. So for sections 1 through 3, it'll be 6 points because I'm asking you to tell me where you can find the right answer. For sections 4, 5, and 6, it will also be 6 points, which means you didn't put the page number for your citation. If you choose to ignore that rule, you will be penalized, and it's not going to be just a little, you know, slap on the wrist 2-point penalty. So if you don't put page numbers, you're going to lose potentially 24 points right off the bat. And you might say, what's the big deal, Ms. Ortiz? Well, I would put that back to you. What's the big deal? Put the page numbers, show me that you're putting in the work. Yes, it will take you time, and that's part of what I want to see, that you put the time in, that you read carefully, that you went back to the text. I also want to point out to you that this is a 3-strike rule. So you don't get 3 strikes for each criteria. So this is holistically 3 strikes. So let's say there's a problem with clarity, but that's your only problem, then you're probably okay. If you just have one prompt that's a little bit unclear, you're probably not going to lose any points, but you have proper capitalization, you have punctuation, there's no spelling errors, you haven't used any banned words in your prompt, then you're probably not going to lose any points. But let's say you have a problem with clarity in number 1, and then there's a capitalization issue in number 3, then there's a punctuation issue in number 4. Then I'm going to check here. That means you have 3 errors in your writing skills. That's 3 strikes and you're out. Okay, so that would be 2, 4, 6 points. So you really have to be careful. You have to edit. You have to really put forth your best effort. So once you hit 3 strikes, you're going to be out on each of these. Okay, so you really want to be careful, because what I don't want, guys, okay, so if I give you 3 strikes here, 3 strikes here, it's going to be riddled with mistakes. You're going to get even more careless because you have so many chances. So I really want to close that window. Again, I do not want to send you to 10th grade still making errors with capitalization. So again, if you're asking a question in your prompt, make sure there's a question mark at the end. Make sure that there's a period at where they go. If you're using a contraction, I need to see the apostrophe. Page numbers are a necessity, and none of your choices can be all of the above or none of the above. Okay, and please make sure that you're not choosing choices that are just random or silly. So for instance, you know, you're not going to say which character annoys Walter when talking about business, and one of your choices is not going to be Fred Flintstone for example. So that's because that's just silly. I think I covered everything. I put the banned word list here. Remember, if it's used in the citation, then that's acceptable. But if it's part of your prompt, what you're asking the student to think about, it's not acceptable to use any of those banned words. Okay, so again, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 are worth 20 points each. You'll have 10 bullets. Each of those bullets is worth 2 points. Okay, you don't want to have multiple errors. Okay, 1 error in capitalization I can understand. But if you have an error in capitalization, an error in punctuation, you spelled the character's name wrong, you've got 3 strikes against you. That's 2, 4, 6 of those 10 points that you've lost. Okay, so you really, 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 really want to be careful. Okay, I know I've talked a lot. Hopefully I've answered questions, but I realize that there may still be some things that you're confused about, so please post any questions in the classroom, and I'll see you tomorrow.